The Baltimore Ravens took care of business against the Packers, and the Browns did so against the Steelers. Now, the question is, does Lamar Jackson play on Sunday against the Steelers? This is Sam Njoku, host of the Ravens Talk podcast. Does his availability change the outcome of this game? We'll talk about it in this episode.
Well, it doesn't matter whether or not you're going to have Lamar Jackson playing or not if your defense doesn't show up against Aaron Rodgers. I'm Kadri Ismail, Super Bowl champion. We're going to get into it, and let's dive deep on what the defense needs to do.
And I'm Kevin Oestreicher, the host of Locked On Ravens. And round 2 of Ravens Steelers is probably going to look a lot different than round 1. And I think that actually favors the Ravens. So we'll talk about that and a lot more coming up on the Locked On Ravens Squad show.
Rise and shine. It's the Ravens Squad. Everything Baltimore Ravens every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of Charm City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Flock together and squad up. The Ravens Squad Show starts now.
Greetings, Ravens flock. Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This is Sam Njoku, joined as always with Kevin Oestreicher and Kadri Ismail. Wow. I mean, the last time we spoke, the Ravens had just beat the Packers, and we were all wondering whether or not the Browns were able to get the job done against the Steelers. If you've been living under a rock and you're a Ravens fan, I got news for you. The Browns took care of business. The Ravens and the Steelers will meet in Pittsburgh in Week 18. Final game of the regular season, Sunday Night Football, to determine who is the AFC North champion. The Ravens have a chance to be the 3-time back-to-back AFC North champions after starting the season 1-5, which is a ridiculous statement to say at this time of year. I'm very excited about it. I'm sure you guys are too. In this episode, we will preview that matchup between the Steelers and the Ravens. We'll talk about whether or not this game will save John Harbaugh's job. I mean, he's been getting a lot of criticism. The seat is definitely hot. I don't think John Harbaugh can even deny that at this point. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also get into whether or not Lamar Jackson will play, because he did not play against the Packers when Derrick Henry went off. Will he play on Sunday, and what impact will he have if he's out there or if he's not? I'll start with you, Kevin, because, again, the Ravens are in a predicament that we didn't expect. I mean, I did. I predicted the Ravens were going to win. Just throwing it out there. But now that they got that opportunity, Lamar Jackson's availability is in question. He had that back injury. John Harbaugh on Monday sounded kind of optimistic about his availability. He'll see how it feels on Wednesday. What are your thoughts about Lamar Jackson potentially being back out there for the Ravens on Sunday?
I will answer your question, but first, gentlemen, I believe we have some business to take care of.
We do.
So we are going to get into
got the sunglasses on.
Celebration mode, because we owe Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns a big thank you, which I did on the celebratory show I did on Sunday. But we need to put the wrists up.
All right,
I
got it.
The perfect time.
Bam.
Congratulations.
Bam. We're there.
Let's do it. I love it. I love it. So yes, I mean, Lamar being out there versus not being out there, there's been that big topic of debate. And I mean, I think that Lamar gives them the best chance to win. I think if Lamar is out and he does not play, we've seen the formula. And I think that Tyler Huntley is more than capable, but Tyler Huntley is still not Lamar Jackson. And it's not me trying to discredit Tyler, because I think Tyler's great, but the conversations that are being had right now, it's not about propping up both guys, which I think is really unfortunate. That's what it should be about. So, hey, the Ravens have a really nice insurance option in Tyler Huntley, but Lamar Jackson is their guy. And even at 70%, I think that Lamar gives you more than what Tyler Huntley does. And the Ravens didn't push the ball down the field a lot against the Packers. Obviously, they rode Derrick Henry to that win. Tyler Huntley, though, he did his job. He didn't put the ball in harm's way outside of like one throw to the end zone. That was really nice. But Lamar opens up so many other possibilities for this offense, and it just seems like people have forgotten what he can be even when he is banged up. And this is coming off of a 41 touchdown, 4 interception season last year, even coming off the beginning of the year that he had this year. And even then, I mean, he was hit by Ed Oliver hard in that week 1 game, and he still was able to put up some numbers before the hamstring injury obviously crept up. And again, how much is the hamstring still bothering him? How much are those other lower leg injuries? You know, what's the back look like? John Harbaugh did note improvements, but I mean, this to me And I thought that Marcus Spears put it pretty perfectly on his rant before the Falcons and Rams game yesterday. It's like, where was all this talk when Lamar was winning MVPs and carrying the team? No one was talking about that then. Why? Because people wait for the moment of weakness, wait for the struggles, if you want to call them that, for all these haters to jump out of the woodwork. So I think that the Ravens, with Derrick Harmon in Pittsburgh, Cam Hayward, those edges that violently set the edge over there, Derrick Henry was held to under 100 yards the first time that these two teams played on 25 carries. Now we're going to talk about the game and the matchups a little later, but it's going to be a lot tougher sledding, in my opinion, than playing against the Packers' second and third stringers and playing against the Patriots without Milton Williams and a couple of other D-line injuries. But I still think that with Lamar, you can run a similar style game plan that you have more options with, where I'm not saying Derrick will get 36 carries with Lamar out there, but man, why not 26 carries? Why not 22 carries? Why not 25 carries? Like, I think you can still do that and utilize Lamar Jackson in that way. And, you know, that in my opinion is what they should do. If Lamar's healthy enough, he should play.
Oh my God. I mean, there's no question that he should play. I think anybody that is saying a less than, no one is 100%. Let's just get that out of the way right now. Unless you are a guy, say Tyler Huntley, that didn't really play an entire season and all the things with it. I don't care. You look down any roster, not 100%. With that said, Tyler Huntley, what he did in Green Bay was remarkable. And he managed the football game like a backup quarterback should do. As a matter of fact, it's just crazy thinking that the two games that he played in, the Chicago Bears, and obviously started for the Packers game as well, both of those starts were against teams that were above 500, and they were able to get the victory. So, yes, to Kevin's point, this is going to be a different game. This is going to be a game in which you're going to see, guys out there that are going to be way better D-line wise than you saw with the Packers. The Ravens opening drive, marched methodically down the field, scored. That is not going to be the case from the Pittsburgh Steelers side of things. I think Highsmith and Hayward and company are going to have something to say about that. We don't know. I don't know if TJ Watt, I think I heard the report where it is him going to have to play and practice every single day full go to be cleared to play because of the fact that it is a non-football injury and it was a collapsed lung. So if he can't go, that is a serious blow to what they can do up front. But with that said, yeah, no question about it. I think if Lamar is healthy, absolutely go. And I don't know, KO, 36, I mean, he had 25 against the Steelers, all 94 yards. So he said he's built for it. I've seen his regimen. I appreciate his regimen, how he does what he does as far as taking care of his body. Bro, I'm riding the horse until it can't be ridden anymore. Let's not get this twisted and try to reinvent the wheel. Lamar's not fully healthy, but yes, can make plays. Let's go ahead and get the man going. King Henry for life. Let's go. 40 carries if need be. Whatever it is, let's go ahead and ride it till you can't ride it anymore. And then at the same time, from a Lamar aspect of things, there should be this idea of getting the ball out quickly. I think Lamar's personality and his play style calls for him to, I'm not going to say hold on to the ball like he's holding on to the ball in a negative. It's just that he has that escapability and he can make a big play. So hopefully, this is a scenario where he's in there and there's a balance. Make the big play when you need to make the big play, but also get the ball out quickly and let your others go ahead and do a lot of the dirty work for you.
I agree completely. I think Derrick Henry is going to be the focal point of this offense. I think we've seen that after that Patriots game even. In fact, LA Go 619 says Sunday is Henry's birthday. The Ravens will win. So great birthday present for Derrick Henry if he's able to get the AFC North Championship for the second time in his career in as many seasons with the Ravens. But to your point, I think is absolutely correct. I think Derrick Henry needs to be the focal point. I think Lamar Jackson, when healthy, I mean, I say healthy when he's out there, because when he's out there, he's healthy enough to play. Can be a problem. I put up a post on social media earlier today. Lamar, before he went down with that back injury, he was 7 for 10 for over 100 yards in the first half, and he was driving down the field against the Patriots. Now, the Patriots defense doesn't give Lamar the type of problems that the Pittsburgh Steelers defense does, but the comment still remains that Lamar Jackson, in my belief, is still a top-tier quarterback. He had as many yards passing in that first half than Tyler Huntley had in the entire game against the Packers. Now, Tyler Huntley didn't need to throw the ball as much and as effectively as Lamar may have to do, because Derrick Henry was slicing and dicing that Packers defense up. But it also, to your point, remains that if you get Derrick Henry going, it doesn't matter much. But Derek Harmon's going to be in this game. We're going to talk about that a little more towards the end of the show. A lot more pieces available for the Steelers in this matchup that weren't available in the first contest against the Ravens, as well as not available in that Browns game that made it a little closer than perhaps it should have been in that contest. But getting back to Lamar Jackson, he's been getting a lot of publicity in the national media about, the report that came out from Mike Preston about whether or not he's, there for the team, whether or not, there's a chance that he may be having some friction with John Harbaugh. We talked about that on the show in previous games, in previous weeks. But Q, I'll start with you. Lamar Jackson, how much do you think it will help him kind of shed the doubters away if he were to come out here and have a big-time performance, as well as what type of pressure does it put on him once he reaches the postseason? Right now, the pressure's on Josh Allen. Might be, counting our eggs before they hatch, so to speak, counting our chickens before they hatch, so to speak, with the Lamar Jackson postseason run. But right now, Josh Allen's the postseason pressure guy. If Lamar Jackson enters that realm, he could be that guy. How much do you think it means to Lamar to be out there, considering everybody's doubting his availability coming in this game?
So, first of all, I'm not a Lamarite. A Lamarite, in my mind, is a guy that doesn't want to talk ball. They just want to push a narrative of anybody says anything about anything negative against Lamar Jackson is a hater. So, that doesn't fit me. I am all about, hey, let's talk ball. We on this show, we talking ball. Lamar Jackson, I think, is an extremely talented player. He is one of one. He does things that others cannot. He is a franchise quarterback. He has the contract to back up what he does. He has the credentials to back up what he does. He absolutely turned this franchise into middle of the road to every year he's been under center, a guy that has put them in the conversation of playoffs / opportunity to win a Lombardi. Now, with that said, Lamar has come up short. The coming up short element of it all has been for a variety of reasons. Okay. The only real comparison would be Patrick Mahomes, who, for the first time in a decade, the Chiefs, aren't going to be looking at representing the AFC West 1, 2. They've been to, 9 AFC championship games? He's been to 5 Super Bowls and won 3 of them. I mean, bruh, it don't matter Josh Allen, don't matter Joe Burrow, it don't matter none of them. It doesn't matter even Jalen Hurts, who went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter any of them. Patrick Mahomes is the modern-day version of what can you look at as a comparison to Tom Brady. I think Peyton Manning and Lamar are in a similar boat. I think where the disconnect comes in is the idea of Preston's article of Lamar's professionalism. When you can recover and play extremely well, no big deal. When you get injured and you take for granted your recovery, and that now puts your team in jeopardy of being able to advance and win games, okay, I can understand that point. I understand that point. And at the same time, if the Ravens allowed it to go on, that's on the Ravens. That if you felt like your superstar player can have his own set of rules, that's on y'all. Jordan rules, that's on the Bulls. The Shaquille O'Neal rules, that's on the Lakers. Name them. Like I'm sitting here like, man, every superstar player, the Barry Bonds. I remember there was a scathing article about Barry Bonds and his, being in the clubhouse. He has his own like section only for him and his chair. He's the only one that had a lounge chair. I mean, if you allow it, a superstar player is going to be a superstar player. If you ain't going to allow it, then okay. But you allowed it. And so if you made your bed, you got to lay in it. That's John Harbaugh. That's Eric DeCosta. Period. End of discussion. If I'm a player in that locker room and I'm looking over at Lamar and he's getting some advantages that I'm not, well, okay, walk in the meeting anytime you want to. Sleep in the meeting anytime you want to. That's up to John. That's up to Eric to talk to him about that. That's y'all set that tone. Y'all set that culture. You made the bed, you lay in. And so for what I would say as a player, the greats, as well as some of the upper tier greats that have been in the Hall of Fame, they have had some less than spectacular work ethics when it comes to practices and stuff. It's just that they're so far and away superior, they can get away with it. Bless them that they can get away with it. I think for Lamar, bless him, he can get away with it. Okay, fine. At some point in time, it always catches up to you. Always. Not some of the time, not maybe the time. Always. It balances itself out. That's up to Lamar as what does he want to do. So at one point in time, it's the coaches and the GM and allowing it in the culture, fine. The Jordan rules, the Barry Bonds rules, so be it. At the same time, for Lamar, if he wants to, man, I'm going to bring a Super Bowl to Baltimore, believe that. Okay, I get it. Mega talented player. Ain't nothing I can say. I didn't have that caliber of a career, but I also know I've been around some of the athletes that have had it and have been at that pinnacle. And there's a certain work ethic that you have to help yourself, because at some point in time, this physical game will catch up with you.
Yeah, man, I think there's going to be pressure on Lamar regardless. And, kind of like what Q said, the Ravens have come up short in the Lamar era, and that is due to a lot of factors, whether that is John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson, the defense, Todd Motley, Zay Flat. Like, a lot of people have to shoulder that blame. But, of course, it is going to come back to Lamar and John Harbaugh, because those are the two guys. Like, John Harbaugh is the head coach, and Lamar Jackson is the star quarterback. And so that's where that blame ends up coming back to. Now, I think people way overcorrect it with Lamar a lot of the time and like blame everything on him and do not provide context on it. But, I think what the weird thing is for me with the Lamar coverage is that people want to rank him in like the second and third tier of quarterbacks, but treat him and give him the expectations like he is the best quarterback in the NFL. And you can't have it both ways, where if you don't think Lamar is as good as some of those other guys, which I do believe he is, then you can't criticize him like that. If you do believe he is, then you can hold him to a higher standard, but you have to praise him like that too. It just feels like these people want the best of both worlds with Lamar, and again, are jumping at any opportunity. And for the playoff pressure and the playoff narrative surrounding Lamar, I mean, yeah, that's not going to go away until he, one, makes it to a Super Bowl, and two, obviously actually wins it. But right now, I think that the question just does become, all right, how healthy is he and what can he do and what can't he do on the field? Because let me tell you, if he's able to come back and play in the game and he feels good enough and the doctors sign off on it and Lamar says, all right, I'm good to go and let's go, but he's still not 100%, and then the injury is clearly hindering him in a postseason game and they lose that game because maybe Lamar isn't feeling right or something's happening, Lamar's still going to get that blame. And they're not going to use that excuse, because that's just what it is with Lamar. And I don't like that, because what did we see Josh Allen do last week? He missed a wide open Khalil Shakir in the end zone, and people are saying, oh, well, he was on a bum ankle, give him some slack. It was a hard throw. Weren't we here a year ago? I mean, I know the squad show didn't exist at that point, but I knew both of you. You were both on the show. Weren't we talking about this last year, where people were criticizing Lamar Jackson on that rollout play on the 2-point conversion? Man, that was a bad throw to Mark Andrews. He hit him right in the chest. And there was no, on the run throw oh, not a good. I mean, again, it's the double standards that we have with Lamar Jackson. So again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you Lamar Jackson is, unable to receive criticism. That's not how I operate, and that's not how a lot of people operate. Again, I think the criticism, when it is deserved, is fair, and that's how a lot of people think about Lamar. It's like, all right, Lamar didn't make a good throw. Yeah, we can talk about it. Lamar didn't make a good throw, but I just think it's just so over exaggerated with him on a consistent basis, especially when people are waiting for a year like this from him. And once it happens, they also take out all the context of something that we've said all season is, man, put anybody back behind that Ravens offensive line. Not these past 2 weeks because they played great, but the offensive line for Baltimore through 15 weeks, and you try to play quarterback behind that O-line and see what happens. So again, there's context to everything. There's a whole lot of blame pie to go around on how this team's played this season, and players, coaches, executives, whatnot, and everybody has a piece. But in terms of how big that piece is, it feels like people want to cut off a much bigger piece for Lamar Jackson, even when you can cut off a smaller piece and be right about, hey, he hasn't done this right or that well or this well, and still acknowledge that he is far from the biggest problem on this team.
That is a good point. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll find out how much of that pie, how big of a piece of a pie goes to John Harbaugh when it comes to what this team has done so far. He still has a chance to right the wrongs, get a division championship, a home playoff game in the wild card round, and set himself up for another chance at another game in the divisional round for a second straight year. We'll see. Well, third straight year. We'll see what happens, and we'll see what type of decision making may be on the horizon for Steve Bisciotti next here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings or managing payroll spreadsheets. That's where Gusto comes in to take the stress out of the payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without the hassle or hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits save me hours every week. Try Gusto today at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That's right, 3 months of free payroll at gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. One more time, that's gusto.com/LockedOnNFL. What's going on, Ravens flock? We are back here, Locked On Ravens Squad Show. The Ravens have a chance to win the AFC North, which is crazy considering the Ravens needed so much help by the Cleveland Browns. That means just getting a win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, something that a 3-win team should not be able to do against a team that's supposed to be winning the championship. But the Steelers dropped the ball, much like the Ravens have done throughout the season, and it sets up perfectly for a one-and-done, winning in, losing you're out scenario for the Ravens in Pittsburgh for the AFC North championship. Now, a lot of talk was being made about John Harbaugh potentially having to give up the reins as head coach because of the failings of this team, but John Harbaugh somehow finds himself back in the thick of it for the AFC North Championship. All he needs to do is to pick up a victory against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. He's done it before. He'll need to do it again. If he does it, Q, what are your thoughts? Do you think his job is safe now? He's back in the postseason. He just rattled off a huge set of wins after starting the season 1-5, or do you think still need to get the job done in the postseason, get a championship for him to save his job?
I think this is fool's gold to think that he saved his job. I think 1-5 start, you have to look at that. You have to look at the way this team was managed in some games that had potential to win. You have to look at the way the handling of the offense, the way you handle your coordinator, Todd Monken, the way, your coordinator and Zach Orr and some of the defensive staff, people that you let go and go to other places. You got to look at it all. Don't stone unturned. You got to look at Eric DeCosta and see what did he do as far as his accountability with some of, they say, hey, when you have successful teams, other teams come and raid your kitchen. And that might be all well and true, but you better have a contingency plan and build up through your draft. So your late round picks, they haven't panned out lately. Who takes accountability for all those decisions. And that being said, yeah, you better win this game. But even if you win this game, yeah, you're AFC North champion. But again, I think it feels like the Knicks and Thibodeau, where he went to the the Eastern Championship and wound up coming up short and losing. They had a really good team, very young players, awesome dynamic. Brunson, like, bro, he has that credential of being on that kind of Lamar Jackson level when it comes to Jalen Brunson's Knicks and how so goes he, so goes their team. And Thibodeau got fired because they felt they could do better. And that dude is a great coach, like unbelievable. He has, potential Hall of Fame worthy type credentials as a coach. And I use that example to say that, yeah, Andy Reid also got let go from Philadelphia. Andy Reid was leading his team to championships 4 in a row. They got those banners hanging up in Philly. But I know one thing, they got 2 Super Bowl banners hanging up that doesn't have Andy Reid as their head coach. So with that said, yeah, I think that this needs to be looked at thoroughly and don't rest upon the laurels of Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh and think that, this season was a success because you won the AFC North barely, and you had this Super Bowl championship team, and you're 1-5. I just don't think that is fair to the process of excellence if you're Steve Bisciotti.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that the decision that Steve Bisciotti would make in that situation would tell us a lot about truly how much winning is on the forefront or whether it's, a buddy thing. And I think that for me, no, winning the AFC North should not save John Harbaugh's job because, yes, that is not your goal. Your goal is not to say, yippee, we won the AFC North. Look at us go. I mean, you don't get anything for that. You don't get anything. You don't get anything for losing the wild card round or losing the divisional round or losing the AFC championship game. I mean, usually you don't get something for losing the Super Bowl, though I know the Bengals had those AFC championship rings made for themselves a couple of years ago. So,
terrible.
Those are rings.
That's something I hope if the Ravens made a Super Bowl, they wouldn't do. But the goal is to win the Super Bowl. When you have a talent like Lamar Jackson, when you have a talent like Derrick Henry, when you have a talent like Kyle Hamilton, when you have a roster that the Ravens have, and again, is it perfect? No. Does Eric DeCosta deserve blame for that? Yes, because we know the offensive line was not addressed properly. We know pass rusher. They took a risk there too, and it didn't work. Mike Green would have needed to be a 15-sack player to have that risk work out, and it just didn't work. So, but that doesn't mean the roster is all of a sudden horrible in every single aspect. And, you look at the way that some other guys have performed, disappointing efforts from some guys also in the pass catching department, which, you thought you were going to get better contributions from those guys this year. But to me, it's the same fatal flaws that we see over and over again, where it's just felt like all year John Harbaugh has been okay to just go down with the ship. And I think that has started where, on the lounge before the season, he got upset about the fact that people were calling it Super Bowl or bust. And he was like, man, that essentially said it's a ridiculous notion that people were thinking of it that way. And, that the response to that across the Ravens fan base was not good. And I think rightfully so, because that's the expectation. That is your standard, where every year is that, because you never know. Speaking of basketball, I'm a big Denver Nuggets fan. If people who've been listening and watching for a while know that. And I had my life flash before my eyes last night with Nikola Jokic going down. I thought he tore his ACL, right? And I thought, okay, coming back from that, Nuggets already down 3 starters. You're going to be down practically their entire starting lineup. But thinking that and looking at the injury, you never know when that championship window is going to close. You never know when something's going to happen. You can't, when you have a roster and you have a potential Super Bowl team, a team that could go there, you can't afford to think of it as, it's not Super Bowl or bust, because it is. Because you don't know when something catastrophic is going to happen. You don't know when something not in your control is going to happen. You don't know when, something unexpected is going to happen. And all of a sudden, a 5-year window turns to you're done. and it's time to regroup and rebuild. So you need to take advantage of every single season. And the fact that it didn't seem like John Harbaugh had that urgency for this year, after coming off a devastating loss to Buffalo last year, after coming off that AFC Championship disappointment, even you want to go back to 2019, after you really had a shot that year too in Lamar's second season, you couldn't get the job done. Years like this can happen where Lamar's been in and out banged up. And honestly, over the past 3 seasons, the Ravens have gotten very lucky injury-wise in terms of season enders. They have not had a lot of season-ending injuries to key players. Malaki, obviously, this year was one of them. But it's been just guys miss a month or guys miss a couple weeks and come back. But you can never take that for granted because look at Cincinnati. I'm sure when they made the Super Bowl, they were like, man, Joe Burrow's young. We got Jamar Chase. Look at this. We're going to continue to improve. We're going to get back there. And where have they been since? You know, you can never take any year for granted. And the fact that John Harbaugh had that urgency, or I guess lack of, was very concerning. And I think that honestly, like that in the Buffalo loss set the tone for this season, which you have a chance to potentially salvage. And, you know, when you're in it now, you can say, yeah, well, now that they're potentially going to make the playoffs, and if they make it, yeah, Super Bowl or bust there. But it's the game management stuff. It's refusing to try new things out on the O-line. It's some of this other stuff. You can't justify it. And so I think John Harbaugh would find another job elsewhere if he were to move on from the Ravens. Sometimes it's just time. And how many times can you go back to that well if you're Steve Bisciotti and say, well, another early playoff exit or another disappointing season, you moved on from multiple coordinators, you had multiple iterations of this roster. What's the constant? It's Lamar Jackson and it's John Harbaugh. And I know for me, I'm not getting rid of Lamar Jackson.
You better not get rid of Lamar because there's only one, you know, Lamar Jackson out there. You kind of see some guys like Malik Willis and, you know, Tyler Huntley in some spots that can kind of do what, you know, the Ravens ask of Lamar, but there's only one Lamar Jackson. I agree with you guys. I think that the AFC Championship, the AFC North Championship is not the saving grace for John Harbaugh. He needs to do more. I said it before the end of the season last year, and I said it at the beginning of the season this year. Super Bowl or bust is the name of the game for the Ravens. And you talked about how you talked in that interview at the lounge with, you know, it just seemed like he was comfortable. He was, you know, he's safe. He's been the head coach for 17, 18 years now. And, you know, losing in the AFC divisional round isn't going to mean much because he's been the head coach since Barack Obama was president for the first time. He's not going anywhere. So, you know, I think that comfortability kind of bit him a little bit. And now we've seen that stress come in, and maybe there is some tugging between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh, but regardless, they need to figure it out. They need to get the job done. I'm very interested to see what happens at the end of the season. Obviously, the Super Bowl is the name of the game, but chances are they're probably not going to get there. Hope they do, but let's see what happens if they don't, because John Harbaugh and Eric DeCosta, somebody, Q, you mentioned him a lot. He's not getting a lot of criticism for this. He deserves that blame as well. Didn't get the job done, as you mentioned, Kevin, in the offseason. Both of those guys need to be under a lot of scrutiny, and I think Harbaugh may be the guy that suffers the most if this doesn't work out. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Let's talk football. Let's talk Ravens versus Steelers. One of those teams are going to the playoffs. The other has lots of questions regarding their head coach and their players. Plenty. We'll touch on it here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine or jumping into player projections for the first time, trying something new can feel like a challenge, but with PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right with high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night. The action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections. No drafts, no waiting, just pick more or less and play your way. Getting started on PrizePicks was quick and simple for me. The app is super easy to navigate. It's made watching games more engaging, especially when following individual player performances. Download the PrizePicks apps today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it is good to be right. What's going on, Ravens flock? We are back here, Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Again, we're here twice a week, once every week, and then once after every Ravens game. The next one is the AFC North Championship, as I've dubbed it. It is just week 18 of the NFL season, but it is an elimination game, win or go home for those guys. So we'll be there Sunday night, Monday morning, maybe, depending on what happens, So make sure you guys stick around. Hopefully the vibes are high. We're feeling good as we talk about the Ravens in the wild card round, hosting a playoff game in Baltimore. But to do so, they will need to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers, a team that they lost to a few weeks ago in controversial fashion. Let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's talk some football, get into the X's and O's. We'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Didn't have TJ Watt for that contest against the Browns. There's some lingering questions about whether or not he'll be there. Let's assume he is, or let's assume he's not. I'll let you guys decide that. But Derrick Harmon, who was not in the first contest between the Ravens, will be there. He's a great run stopper. Definitely will be somebody that Derrick Henry and company will want to pay attention to. We'll see what happens because this pass rush was very relentless against the Browns on Sunday. Kevin, what are your thoughts about this Steelers defense? Are you concerned about what this offensive line, who's looked good the past 2 weeks, will be able to do against a Pittsburgh Steelers defense that always seems to give Lamar Jackson fits?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tougher challenge, as I mentioned earlier on the show. Again, you mentioned Derrick Harmon. They have Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. And again, those edges are probably some of the most violent edges in the league. And I know that, there's been many mentions of that, and we've seen it, especially when teams shift formations and pull blockers over to one side and shift that blocking over. The edge that's unblocked off that other side will just crash and get to the defender, whether it's TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. And again, we'll see if TJ Watt's able to play. They have Nick Herbig as well. But that defense has not been the same defense that we've been accustomed to over the last 5 years. They've been very middling this season. And, they've had to replace a lot of guys. Like they had Darius Slay and Juan Thornhill earlier in the season. Those guys were awful, so they got rid of those. They brought in Asante Samuel Jr. and Kyle Duggar, and those guys have played better. They've moved Jalen Ramsey into a safety type of role. So, that's where they're putting him. They've missed Deshaun Elliott, in my opinion, this season, he's one of the best run stuffing safeties in the NFL. And funny enough, replacing him with Chuck Clark, which is just kind of like, you look at that, those Ravens and Steelers connections. I mean, Pittsburgh is looking like the Baltimore Steelers on defense for a little bit, with obviously PQ and Malik Harrison over there as well. But I think for me, the O-line this is going to be the test. It truly is, because the last couple of weeks, as I mentioned, the Packers are playing without Micah Parsons, no Devontae Wyatt, and Rashawn Gary's regressed after Green Bay gave him that contract to the point where the Packers and their fans want to trade him away. I know the Packers fans are. If you saw the tape, Rashawn Gary got out physicaled by Devontae Walker on that last Derrick Henry touchdown, and that is how far Rashawn Gary has fallen. And then obviously against the Patriots, they did have Christian Barmore, but no Milton Williams, who was one of the best wrecking D linemen in the league this year, as well as they had a couple of injuries during the game as well. So I think that this is going to be a really big test. And we saw, Q mentioned it, he had 25 carries in that first game for 94 yards, which again is under 4 yards a carry. I mean, not a great game, but also not terrible. But I think that you just continue to go back to that well. I don't care if Lamar's out there. I don't care if Tyler's out there. You can form game plans around both those guys. But I was encouraged because this was the first week that we truly saw the Ravens get back to Ravens football, which we talked about on the squad show after the game. It's like the Ravens lined up and said, we're going to run this football. And they said to Pittsburgh, hey, we're going to run this football. And the Steelers said, all right, we're going to sell out to stop you. And they just couldn't do it. And they just did it over and over and over and over again. They asserted their physicality. And if you remember last season, like the last 2 games that the Ravens played against Pittsburgh, that's why they drafted Derrick Harmon, was because Baltimore ran all over them. Derrick Henry ran all over them in those games. So Harmon didn't play in the first matchup between the Ravens and the Steelers. So this will be his Ravens and Steelers rivalry debut. But I do think that if the offensive line, this to me, if they win, and again, it's if they win, this is the warm-up game. And why do I say this is the warm-up game? Because you are going to have 2 elite defenses back-to-back, assuming you make it to the divisional round and assuming Houston wins and Jacksonville wins. You're playing that Houston defense, who is smaller. That's a smaller D-line. But they obviously have those 2 pass rushers on the edge. And then you got that. If they win that game and there are no other upsets, you got to go to Denver and play that defense who has Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Sebastian Joseph Day, Zach Allen, and that defense too. So this would be the warm-up game for playing. Again, Steelers are a middling D-line unit, and I guess D unit in general. But you'd have to go and play two elite defenses, assuming that the Ravens do win that Pittsburgh game in Week 18, and everything falls into place the way that I'm projecting it to.
I just want to say this, KO is spot on with his assessment. And to add to that, the Ravens turned the ball over. The Steelers did not. The Steelers played a classic Ravens-Steelers Mike Tomlin victory game. They got up right off the bat. Obviously, DK Metcalf is not going to be coming through that tunnel anytime soon wearing Steeler colors because he's going to be suspended. But they made the big plays when they needed to. They came into the game where Aaron Rodgers was like, man, I want to throw the ball down the field, but I can't because nobody's catching them or we're not on the same page. Well, they threw the ball down the field on this Ravens defense. When you look at the Packers defense, their offense against this Ravens defense, they threw the ball down the football field. They flood routed the Ravens defense, and the Ravens couldn't put themselves in position with Wiggins, Humphreys, and Alohi Gilman. The big picture is this Ravens defense has not come up with any level of pressure on the quarterback consistently all year long. So, yeah, leaning on Derrick Henry is great, but you better score when you get into the red zone. Cam Hayward is a different animal than anybody that the Packers could put up on the offensive line or on the D line against this offensive line. I think bigger picture-wise that when you look at Holcomb and Highsmith, them dudes can play and they can show up and show out. I think that's where Ravens defense, they got to figure out what they're going to do. And this is the last game of the year. The last game. They still haven't figured it out. Like, okay, come on, what are we doing here? The thing is, you can't have a cover two bust Kyle Hamilton against Aaron Rodgers like you did against Malik Willis. You just can't. Scotty Miller is not Christian Watson. That's okay. But Scotty Miller will get by you and catch it. We know that running back wise, they got a running back that can come out of the backfield. Warren is no joke. Warren is solid. He's strong. He's going to be able to make guys miss in the hole. Jaylen Warren is that guy, that dude. But at the same time, Gainwell, man, that bruh, he can make some plays with his hands. And you best believe they're going to be trying to match him up on some of our linebackers and, dare I say, Kyle Hamilton. You best bring it. Mark, what is it? Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Like, Valdez-Scantling, his abilities aren't the level of DK Metcalf, but let him sleep on him, and he's going to make some plays on you. So, bottom line is you don't have that good of a pass rush, which goes back to EDC and the accountability. We'll table that for another day. Mm-hmm. But we also have to look at the John Harbaugh, Zach Orr defensive structure and what does that all look like? Because what we saw against the Packers will absolutely not get it done. Mike Tomlin will be drooling. Aaron Rodgers, they will be drooling, saying, ha, Steeler fans, punch our tickets. We're about to have a home playoff game. And I was listening to Locked On Ravens Squash Show, and there was this dude, his name was Kevin Oestreicher. He was trying to hype up the whole thing with the Ravens. Bruh, I'm going to let y'all know this. KO motivated me. See?
Yeah.
I know that we are going to go out there. We're going to play our best. And we're going to use his words against the Ravens. So then when I go across the field and shake John Harbaugh's hands after I know we had a home victory, and then we're going to have another home one, and then KO going to be on his squad show talking about something, oh, what happened to the Ravens? And my guys, if they even have a Locked On Pittsburgh show, which I don't even know, and I don't really care right at this moment. Yeah. Don't even shake your head. Don't shake your head if they do. We don't care. We don't care about them. Okay? All right? We don't care about y'all right now. We know we're supposed to be family, but not right now. Not this week. We don't care. So, with that said, yeah, Mike will be talking about something. You know what, Houston? They have a smallish D-line. Yeah, that's okay. We don't care because we just whooped up on the Ravens, and at least we can say that we had a chance to play against Houston, and the Ravens had to look at us play against them. So, Zach Orr, D-line, linebackers, Kyle Hamilton, secondary, y'all best get your butts in gear and recognize you can't have busts. You can't have mistakes. You can't be like, oh, I caught it. No, I didn't. You got to make the interception. Can't be like, oh, I pushed off. No, I didn't. Pass interference. No, it wasn't. They ain't calling it. Let's play ball. Period. That's all we want. Okay? Because KO is right. I think the offense has an opportunity to put up and do some things. O-line, roly-poly-oly, you had a good one against the Packers. Now, that Packers team, they weren't what we saw with Cam Hayward and company. But you got a chance. You got a chance. Defense needs to step up, bro. That's all there is to it. Tyler Luke, you better go ahead and dial up Justin Tucker. Be like, yo, Justin, hook a boy up and let me know what it's like pregame, first quarter, and fourth quarter in Pittsburgh on the confluence that is Three Rivers. Because it's going to be different. It's going to be different. I have not experienced that difference. Because if it's outside of 50, I don't know if I got the leg to make it through the uprights, but I think I got the leg to make it through the uprights. If I know, can you hook me up? Justin, do him a solid. Give him the secret. We know you know the secret. I'm giving you the eye, Justin, to tell him the secret for that Three Rivers kicking situation, because we don't want Mike Tomlin talking about KO in his post-game speech about how they're about to go ahead against the Houston Oilers. We just don't want it.
Man, if that's going to be up there in the press conference, he might as well come on a show and say it on a show. I mean,
man, I mean, I'm going to be there, and I might have to go over. I got the prediction, so
go bring him on. Go get him
right on over to the other side. Like, Mike T. Yeah, bro, I respect your game a lot. I think you're one of the greatest coaches. So, tell us, Kevin Oestreicher, Ravens Squad Show. Now, he was saying that if you guys were to lose, which you did, do you feel now that the Ravens will have an opportunity to go up against the Houston Oilers? Or I'm going to have to be like, Mike T, KO literally said that y'all were going to lose. I heard him. See, you're going to interrupt me. I heard him. And I'm going to tell you right now, Houston ain't got a problem with us, and we ain't got a problem with them, but we're going to handle our business when DK comes back. See, that's all. We're going to figure this out one way or the other.
I said assuming. I did not say they were going to lose. I said assuming. I don't want to put that in there because then I'm going to get blamed for the jinx, and I don't want to do that. So just putting that out there.
Well, there's going to be plenty of opportunity to get some jinxing on because when we come back, we are going to preview some more about that defense, and we're going to get into some predictions, something that I love to do and put you guys in the microscope for. So we'll talk about that here next on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. We're back. Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Sam Njoku, Kevin Oestreicher, Kadri Ismail, talking Ravens football. Remember, you can catch this show twice a week. You can also catch the Locked On Ravens podcast, the Kevin Oestreicher 5 days a week, talking Ravens football. Maybe talking some trash to Steelers faithful as well as you get ready for the Ravens game against the Steelers for the AFC North Championship. I'm very excited for it. We've already had Q's rants about the game. Let's talk more about that defense because, as you mentioned, Q, there's no DK Metcalf in this game, no Darnell Washington. The only deep threat that they'll have in this contest that they didn't have in the Browns game is potentially the return of Calvin Austin. So we'll see how progress is for that as the practices go underway later this week. I'll start with Kevin. Kevin, what are your thoughts about this?
Hey, yo, what up now? Come on
unit?
now.
Yeah, give it to us straight. No DK, no Darnell Washington. It didn't matter. Aaron Rodgers still tore up this defense last time, put up some yards. A lot of quarterbacks have done that. What are your thoughts about this matchup?
Okay, well, if I say what I feel like, he was gonna go on another rant about how I'm jinxing it, and then I'm not, and then he's gonna say Mike Tomlin's about to come for you, and I'm about to be like, I was just saying what I feel, but I truly do believe that this Steelers offense cannot get the job done unless a miracle happens. And again, I'm saving myself with the buffer of because it is possible that a miracle can happen. So I'm not saying it as a guarantee, but we saw what that team looked like against the Browns. And I'll tell you this, the Browns have a better defense than the Ravens do. The Browns defense is unreal. And the Ravens don't have a Myles Garrett, but the Browns don't have a Kyle Hamilton. So that is where I am going to look at it and say that the key to this game is the Ravens are going to have to replicate what Cleveland did. And what did Cleveland do? They got pressure on Aaron Rodgers almost every single play. Now, the Ravens don't have the D-line the Browns do. So what I feel like you need to do is you need to blitz Kyle Hamilton. You need to force Aaron Rodgers to make a decision. And I think the big thing is you do not want to let some of those big, deep passing plays happen because we saw, and again, no DK in this game, but Aaron Rodgers is going to want to air that. Heck, Aaron Rodgers did that on 4th and 1, and he aired it out to Scotty Miller on a 30-yard play that I'm just like, what are you doing right now? So they're going to want to throw this ball deep. But DK Metcalf had 148 yards, against the Ravens in that first game. The next closest receiver for Pittsburgh was Jaylen Warren with 49. So DK Metcalf was that entire offense. Plus, not to mention, the Ravens have turned themselves into a very good run defense, a very good third down defense, although last week that was kind of an issue, but very good third down defense and very good red zone defense. And the Steelers against the Ravens in that week, I don't even remember what week it was, 11 maybe, 12 game. The Steelers had 17 carries for 34 yards. They averaged 2 yards a carry against this Ravens defensive line. And I still think that the Steelers are a better run team than that. But we've seen the emergence of some guys, at least in the run game, where like a Travis Jones, for example, and some other guys, that to me is if you can eliminate that ground game and force Aaron Rodgers to air that ball out without DK Metcalf, and by the way, without Darnell Washington, who is out for the season, and maybe without Calvin Austin, although I know Mike Tomlin expressed some optimism there for him. I just have to hope that Nate Wiggins is just not going to have another career worst game this week. And that, you know, while the Packers don't have any like big name receivers, Christian Watson is very underrated. And so is Romeo Doubs. And so is Jaden Reed. Like those guys, I don't think get enough respect. And I think it's going to be a big step down from that group into what we're going to see. But we saw Pat Freiermuth get involved and Aaron Rodgers hitting him up the seam late, and Jonnu Smith can carry the ball. So I'm not saying there are no offensive weapons. They do have them, but I'm just trying to say that DK Metcalf is such a big loss. I think Pittsburgh is going to feel those ripple effects throughout the entire game. And we're going to see if they can come up with enough answers against this Baltimore defense. Is that good enough, Q? Did I cover my bases?
I mean, you went down the path. You were just covering base. I'm covering bases. Just
there we go.
I mean, bro, I just think that when you look at like Freiermuth, who's going to cover him? If we having trouble, who's going to be covering him? You look at Gainwell. Gainwell can be coming out of the backfield and making plays. He doesn't need to make the plays when it comes to rushing the football. Again, Mike Tomlin knows that this is a different ball game. We keep it close, we score, we get up on them, we hold the ball, we're good. Freiermuth is going to have a big game unless somebody goes ahead and puts the smackdown on him. And also Gainwell is going to have a big game unless they can understand their own coverages and make sure that they don't have mistakes themselves. Like Trenton Simpson is not covering Freiermuth the way you think he's going to be covering Freiermuth. Gainwell is going to make somebody look silly. So am I hating on it? Nope. I'm being realistic and I'm opening up the understanding of what they are going to want to do. Whoo, Zach Orr and company, y'all going to have to like, hey, bruh, we're going into the Lions den and you better not be sitting there talking about oh, that's okay. We're okay. No, you ain't okay. You need to go in there and have a club and start clubbing. Like just beating people down. Let's go. This is going to be like a battle beyond the battles that you've seen. That Cleveland game, they did have Myles Garrett. We don't have anybody the level of Myles Garrett, including Kyle Hamilton. I don't care how much you're going to try to blitz Kyle Hamilton. They had Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett. Okay, let's be realistic. Myles Garrett, mother of pearl. I wish we could borrow him for a week. Then I would feel better. Right now, we got some dudes that collectively can't even hold up to Myles Garrett. So with that said, yeah, every time there's a simulated blitz, you got to like know where the weakness is of where Aaron Rodgers can go and know that that is something you got to really cover and cover well. And that's the difficulty with this secondary. They've been on this up and down wave, mother of pearl. I think Isaiah Likely has to have a big game. I think when it comes down to it, Bateman is going to have to show up. Shoot, you have D-Hop if you're in a situation where you're giving it to him. Like, again, one of the things I've noticed about D-Hop, like he doesn't just like smoothly get off the line of scrimmage. It's like he gets jammed, but he's so uber confident in his catch radius. He's like, all right, you jam me. Oh, I got the catch. Oh, I'm going to make the ball mine. And I appreciate that, but mother of pearl, find ways to like motion him or something. Let him, cook and get off the line a little bit smoother. This is Derrick Henry, no question about it. But what happens when it's, an offsides and now it's 3rd and 8 when it was just 3rd and 2? Okay, you got to throw the ball. Somebody gonna have to come up and step up and make a play. We know Zay's doing your thing, but you best hold on to the ball. I thought he absolutely showed up against the Packers. Now you're gonna have to show up. And if you want to validate, hear me, flock, hear me. You want to validate that Pro Bowl, this is the game where you redeem yourself on national. Because everybody gonna be watching. Redeem yourself, Zay Flowers on national. Isaiah Likely, you want that fat contract in the offseason? Bruh, this is where you should literally be like, yo, I am going to just dominate. All right? So Val Hines, 841, bruh, you don't know what you don't know. And what your words are, you ain't really listening. So go ahead and unclog your ears and understand the words that are coming out of our mouths, and you'll be all right. Go suck on a lemon somewhere, and you'll be okay. All right.
Oh, man. I can't put your post up, Val Hines, because it has some excessive language.
Family-friendly show.
Family-friendly show. I will say, you said that, it sounds like we want you to lose. We don't want the Ravens to lose. We're just trying to be as realistic as possible and put it out here for you. Learn the X's and O's and tell you the situation at hand, because the Ravens are in a fight. There's the reason why the Steelers are here battling for the AFC North Championship is because they have some dealings that have been dealt to the Ravens in the past. In fact, the Ravens just lost a game to the Steelers a few weeks ago. So we're going to close out the show. I'm not going to have you guys put your predictions out there. I know it's only Tuesday. It's early for you guys listening and watching live. Instead, I will have you put a percentage. Starting with you, Kevin. What is the percentage? What is the likelihood that the Ravens are hosting a playoff game next week? 0 to 100%.
60.
Ooh, 60%. I like 60. It. All right. What you got, Q?
51%. There you go. See, Val Hines, 841. Right. I want them to win.
Yeah.
That'll get 1%, 1 point or 10 points. Either one gets them into the playoffs.
All right. I got some other comments. A1 Primetime says 85%. Classic 612 says 80%. They're a little more confident than you guys. Nansing's about 70%, so we're getting a little lower there. 80. Do I hear 60? I mean, we're going down here, but
heard it. You just heard it from me.
Yeah. Kevin gave us a 60. I'm between you guys. I think it's about. I'm actually.
Laura, I got you, Laura.
See,
Laura says 60. Okay,
Laura
all
knows
right.
what's up. Laura knows what's
And
up.
then we got
see,
65.
60.
All right,
so there we go. It's just getting lower and lower and lower, man.
Right,
what's going on here?
The Ravens have a shot, no question about it, to get the job done. They'll need to have a great game on defense because I know there's no DK, but the Packers didn't have DK, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers, and they were still able to make some moves down the field on this team. As you guys mentioned, Nate Wiggins will need to bounce back because he had a horrible, horrible game that the Ravens were able to overcome and win, but they'll need him big time in this contest in Pittsburgh. With the Renegade playing in the fourth quarter, the Ravens will need to be up big time to have a shot to close it out and become AFC North champions for the third time in a row. Well, that's going to do us for us here at the Locked On Ravens Squad Show. Appreciate you guys for joining us here. Want to wish you all a happy new year as we head over to 2026. Hopefully, the Ravens begin 2026 with a W and a trip to M&T Bank Stadium for the wild card round and the AFC playoffs. For myself, Kevin Oestreicher, Kadri Ismail, I appreciate you guys so much for joining us here on the Locked On Ravens Squad Show, and we will see you on Sunday.